So the Genius of Play is an exhibition that created in response to like travels that I did when I was at Senegal and learning different dyeing techniques. It was a shift in my practice where before I went to Senegal, I was making work that was a little bit more, the color schemes were different. It was a little bit more muted. It was dealing with very specific like social issues in regards to like race dynamics. And so after I went to Senegal, I was learning how to dye with an artist by the name of Boussouris Ba, and he was teaching me batik dye. And so we were talking just a little bit about how I needed to kind of let the material flow the way that it needed to, because you need to use wax for the batik, and how that fluidity of the material, the flow of it, being able to control that through like the looseness of your hand in order to actually be able to control it. And so after that, I went to the studio and started playing a little bit more. It wasn't as much about what is the concept that I'm trying to think about, but more so of just like the process of making. And so this exhibition is about like different moments of play with it that had an impact in my life, whether it was like playing with my niece, having experiences with my mother. My mother grew these gourds for the exhibition, or playing checkers with my grandfather, and then like growing up and watching Venus and Serena Williams play tennis. So it's like all how play has impacted my life in a way in the past, and then also the present, how I'm like approaching my studio practice. Right, so where I'm sitting right now is a full installation piece that we created for the show that is an interpretation of a small shrunk down like tennis court. And so if you look at the design of the foam, you'll see it has the line work of a tennis court. The purple that's in the center is signifying where the net would be in the tennis court as well. I'm sitting on these cubes that I created that people can come and like sit on, or they can sit directly onto the foam as well. And the cubes are actually decorated with text that says baby girl, that was handwriting from my father that I like turned to a pattern that decorates these pieces. And so the idea of this area of the show is to center sound. I make a lot of work video pieces, and then I have sound pieces that are made in collaboration with the artist by the name Johannes Barfield. He's a sound and visual artist. And oftentimes you'll see that sometimes sound is usually overlooked, or it's felt like it's in addition to. And so I really wanted to make a good portion of the space like centering the sound that was created for this work. And so the speakers in here are framed with rectangles that are painted a color that I matched to the color of the tennis ball. And then the height of the rectangles are 42 inches high, which is the height of the center of a tennis set. And so the speakers are placed on opposite sides of the room. And when you sit at this piece, you can hear the sound of a tennis ball bouncing back and forth. You can also hear the sound of Venus and Serena Williams, like the grunts, like the infamous grunts that they would make when they were playing tennis. And then you also hear beads falling in it. Children walking in grass and playing. You'll hear an ice cream truck. You'll hear like whistling in it. And so the idea is really for someone to come in here and maybe lay down and close their eyes, and then they can begin to kind of dream and create like images in their head of like what could potentially be happening in this field. So the piece that we're looking at here is titled Mom's Garden. This piece, my mother grew the gourds for this piece, and I asked her to grow them. We started working on them. It took 2 years for it to get to this place. And so I asked her if she would grow gourds for me. And then she spent the year cultivating and growing the gourds, figuring out what kind she wanted to grow. And it took another 6 months for her to dry it out. And then I shipped them to my studio and continued to dry them out. And these are called, the nickname for them are birdhouse gourds. And so what was really nice about them, I love the texture that's on these gourds. Like you'll see these patterns on them from when they're drying out. They create these very unique surface treatments. And then I also added in these rhinestones
So when you come into the show and you see it up close, you'll see these little rhinestones in it, which is based off of a hairstyle that my mother would often pick out for me when I was younger, where I would get my hair braided and then I had beads in my hair with rhinestones in them. So they were wooden beads. And so it's really kind of honoring that. They also have sound. So if you were to shake it, you could actually hear sound inside of it because of the seeds. They're still inside of the gourds. And so it's also thinking about West African shakir instruments. And so instead of beating the gourds, I wanted to turn the gourds into hair beads. So I'm very much excited that I got to work with my mom on that, and she's growing like other things for me to work with as well. So this piece is titled Shake 'Em. It's a series of 3 photos, but this is one of 3. Shake 'Em is inspired by conversations with my niece when I would ask, like basically when I see her, I tell her shake 'em, and she begins to shake her hair beads. And so it's really thinking about this idea of the body as an instrument. So really in conversation with like West African shakir instruments, in conversation with like the youth of young girls and them adorning their hair with beads and that joy and stimulation and confidence that it gives them when they have these like decorative elements in their hair, and also the sound that it makes when they're like moving and walking around. And so thinking about the body as an instrument. And so this series is putting the aesthetics of those shakir instruments into the hair, and trying to really play with like what does it mean for your body to like make sound, and the sound that it makes when you're enjoying and having a good time. The fabric that's in here was hand dyed. The checkered pattern is this motif that I've been using in my work now since 2021. Thinking about playing the games of checkers with my grandfather. Also, many other interpretations of the pattern as well. And so we've been playing a lot with that checkered pattern in the work. And this is the first time that I've shown this photo with something behind it with like wood paneling. That was something that I wanted to play with. Really thinking about like the paneling that was in my mother's home. We have like these wood paneling in one room, but it's also playing with like indoor and outdoors because there's also a fence alluding to that as well. And then there's this yellow piece that's going through it that's made with construction paper and crown. And I kind of call it like a piece of a rainbow, just like one piece of it that's kind of moving through it, just playing with childhood like materials that I would use when I was creating work.